But now they are placing more emphasis on India's export potential, actively seeking to reduce the trade deficit with China by taking the initiative and increasing Chinese imports from India, he writes. According to Zhang, India has created a distinct Bharat narrative which has made the South Asian country strategically more confident. In the diplomatic sphere, India has rapidly shifted toward a great power strategy. Since Prime Minister Narendra Modi assumed power, he has advocated for a multi-alignment strategy promoting India's relations with the US, Japan, Russia, and other countries and regional organizations. India's strategic thinking in foreign policy has undergone another change and is clearly moving toward a great power strategy. Regarding the Russia-Ukraine conflict, India has distanced itself from the West and aligned itself more closely to the developing world. At the same time, India's reservations about Western powers have significantly diminished, and its activities within Western countries have become more frequent, extending beyond organizing large-scale diaspora events, he says. The Chinese scholar noted India has moved from emphasizing its democratic consensus with the West to highlighting the Indian feature of democratic politics. He also highlighted how India is trying to change its image, from what he terms a political dwarf, resulting from its history as a colony, to a world mentor, both politically and culturally. Touching upon India's economic progress, the Global Times piece says its economy has gained momentum and is on track to becoming one of the fastest-growing major economies. The author Zhang says he visited India recently. During his interaction with Indian representatives, their attitude toward Chinese scholars was more relaxed and moderate, instead of being stubborn at times. For example, when discussing the trade imbalance between China and India, Indian scholars used to primarily focus on China's measures to reduce the trade imbalance. India's economic journey is a tale of remarkable resilience, strategic decisions, and consistent growth. This journey began post-independence, where India adopted a mixed economy model, balancing state ownership with private enterprise, a decision that laid the foundation for future prosperity. Fast forward to the 1990s, a pivotal decade for India. The country was facing a severe economic crisis, but rather than succumbing to it, India chose to transform it into an opportunity. The government introduced economic liberalization policies, opening up the Indian market to foreign investment. This decision marked the beginning of a new era of accelerated economic growth and integration with the global economy. Throughout the early 21st century, India continued to build upon these economic reforms. The introduction of the Goods and Services Tax in 2017 simplified the tax structure and boosted economic efficiency. Meanwhile, initiatives like Make in India attracted foreign direct investment, further bolstering economic growth. India's economic prowess hasn't just been confined to its borders, though. It has also played a significant role in shaping its international standing. As one of the world's fastest-growing major economies, India has become a key player in global economic forums like the G20 and BRICS. Its voice on issues like trade, climate change, and sustainable development carries considerable weight. India's economic growth has also led to an increased role in global politics. It's not just about economic clout. India's democratic governance and commitment to international law have earned it respect and influence on the world stage. It's no wonder then that India is often considered a contender for a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. India's economic timeline is a testament to its strategic vision and unwavering determination to become a global powerhouse. From the mixed economy model of the early years to the economic liberalization of the 90s and the ongoing reforms of the 21st century, each step has been a calculated move towards economic prosperity and global influence. India's economic growth hasn't gone unnoticed. Even countries like Pakistan and China have acknowledged India's economic prowess. These words echo across borders, painting a picture of India's economic success story that resonates far and wide. Despite political differences, even Pakistan and China have found themselves applauding India's economic strides. Let's first look at Pakistan. In an era marked by economic turbulence, Pakistan's own economists have publicly acknowledged India's robust economic growth. They've highlighted India's economic policies, its commitment to infrastructure development, and its ability to attract foreign investment as key factors contributing to its growth. These praises, coming from a neighboring country with which India has a history of strained relations, speaks volumes about the impact of India's economic progress. And then there's China, a global economic powerhouse itself, recognizing India's ascent. Chinese analysts have drawn attention to India's tech boom, the growth of its digital economy, and its increasing influence in the global tech industry. They've also lauded India's strides in renewable energy and its commitment to combat climate change. Despite their competitive relationship, China's praises reflect an acknowledgement of India as a formidable player on the global economic stage. These praises aren't just fleeting compliments, they signify a shift in global economic dynamics, with India emerging as a major player. They point to India's growing influence in shaping global economic and political discourse. They underline the fact that India's growth story isn't confined to its own borders, but is being recognized and appreciated by countries around the world. There's a saying, a rival's praise is the highest form of compliment. And in this case, the praises from Pakistan and China, despite their political differences, serve as testaments to India's economic strength and global influence. They underscore the fact that India's economic growth isn't just a national success story, but a global phenomenon. The praises from Pakistan and China further underscore the fact that India's economic growth is a global phenomenon. India's economic growth has not only transformed its domestic landscape but has also elevated its status in global politics. Indeed, the world's largest democracy has become a force to be reckoned with on the global stage. As the Indian economy has prospered, so too has its political influence grown. Economically, India's rise is seen in its growing middle class, its burgeoning tech sector, and its increasing role as a hub for global manufacturing. But this isn't just about economics. It's about the political power that comes with economic prosperity. India's economic growth has allowed it to leverage its position in global politics in ways that were unimaginable a few decades ago. Its economic clout has translated into political influence, shaping international decisions and norms. Take, for instance, how India's stance on major global issues is now closely watched and often influences the course of international diplomacy. Whether it's climate change negotiations, global trade talks, or discussions on internet governance, India's voice carries weight. Moreover, India's economic strength has also allowed it to extend its influence beyond its immediate neighborhood. It's now an essential player in platforms like the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, and the G20, where it consistently advocates for the interests of developing nations. This growing influence is also seen in how India has been able to attract foreign investments, negotiate trade agreements, and forge strategic alliances. It's a far cry from the days when India was seen as a passive recipient of global decisions. In fact, India's rise in global politics is so marked that it's often seen as a counterweight to China in the Asia-Pacific region. Despite the challenges it still faces, India is carving out a niche for itself as a major player in global politics, powered by its economic prowess. India's economic growth and its rise in global politics is an inspiring tale of strategic vision, resilience, and consistent growth. It is a journey that the world watches with anticipation and respect.